We went to Carrabba's. Oh yeah, you are so beautiful. That's what I said to my steak last night when Jared said these words. My steak was perfectly cooked. I was like,
do you want to sell 100 houses a year with no sphere by just buying internet leads? If so, then episode 34 of our podcast is for you. Let's go.
You're listening to Mega Real Estate Talk with Jared Davis and Galen Parker, your source for an honest, insightful look into Central Virginia's real estate market. Combined, Jared and Galen have over 20 years sales experience, as well as hundreds of testimonials from clients past and present who rely on them for advice and assistance when buying and selling homes in today's incredibly hot and competitive real estate market. And now, your hosts, Jared Davis and Galen Parker.
I am Jared Davis.
and I am still Galen Parker.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm feeling so fine.
That's good. That's very good.
I'm high on life.
Man, good for you.
I'm ready to take the bull by the horns.
It's 10 a.m. here, right? The second we're filming. So
AM.
A.m. Not. Mike, what is going on over here?
Just killing the vibe.
Every single podcast is like the first time.
You just did some weird
a
audio
bunch of
thing in our
music
ear.
stuff going on in our back.
The camera's even on. Let's just start.
We're rolling.
Are we doing a podcast right now? Golly day, every time.
One of the reasons why I am such a good mood is because last night I took Jared Davis, TBK,
the bougiest human ever,
J. Bouget, to one of the finest Italian eateries
Was he kicking and screaming?
on the East Coast. I took him, ladies and gentlemen, to Carrabba's.
Oh
To
God!
Carrabba's, baby, bubba. So here's the thing. Obviously,
So not Walmart, but Target.
Yeah, exactly. That is the perfect. It's not Olive Garden. Hey, Olive Garden, you've got your place in America's heart.
No, you don't.
But in the middle of America's heart, you definitely do. Look at that revenue number they pump out every year.
Ugh.
It's not the greatest Italian cuisine. We'll put that out there. But it's not terrible. And I think historically, J. Bouget, TBK, Jared Davis had been operating off of the premise that it was just terrible. It was the worst food ever. And I disputed that. I said, listen, I'm not going there for an anniversary dinner, but it has its place.
For a Wednesday night,
So
it was
as
fine.
we tried it in Wednesday night, we went to the bar. We got drinks. Jared got 8 glasses of wine or something. Generous pours. Outstanding service.
Yeah, shout out to Sarah.
Shout out to Sarah.
Been there for a decade.
She's been working at Carrabba's for a decade, and it makes sense because she did a great job. Everything was effortlessly. She had regulars coming in. At one point, Jared cut into a steak, and I was like, "How's the steak?" He was like, "They cooked the steak perfectly." And I was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got liftoff." Jared, you got the trio?
Yeah,
You ate
they
every
had
bite.
they had a menu. Like the front of the menu had a picture. So you always know it's a good restaurant when the front of the menu just has a giant picture of food.
I'm like,
on
I
it.
want the picture.
And that's exactly what I did. I was like, this is like 3 entrees. I was like, this is America, right? I know this is an Italian restaurant, but this is pure America. Because I was like, what is this? They're like, we took 3 entrees and we made them into 1 entree. So I was like, so you pretty much took like an appetizer sampler plate and you did the same thing with entrees. And they're like, exactly. And I was like, all right, give me that.
I remember like when you looked at it, you're like, they're not going to be able to give me this. I'm like, no, this is available right now. And like you show the picture, Sarah's like, oh, you want the trio?
That's the Johnny.
Oh, the Johnny,
That's the
You want
Johnny trio.
Yeah, we can do that. And I started like laughing.
It was literally a steak marsala, a chicken something with like goat cheese and like sun-dried tomatoes, and pasta.
How did it taste?
It was fine.
Don't you just find me. Last night he was like, this is really good.
I didn't say really good
He
ever.
said good, ladies and gentlemen. TBK said it was good.
He jumped on Yelp.
He was like, this is the best. The other funny thing is that like I got the chicken marsala. It's like smothered in cheese and stuff. They're like, that'll be 400 calories. I'm like,
Yeah, I was like, that's a lie. I was like, we're gonna send Galen in to just eat the 400
Just every
calories,
day.
And then when he gains 400 pounds, we'll sue
I'm gonna
Carrabba's.
sue Carrabba's. I was like, there's that. And we asked her, and she was just like, even she couldn't even defend it. She was like, laughing. She's like, oh,
That's just
I
the
think-
chicken. I was like,
Yeah.
you mean before the marsala and the pasta? that
Yeah,
comes
before
with
the
it?
thing that makes it the meal. She's like, yeah, pretty much.
I was like,
I'm
that's
like,
just,
all right,
you
cool.
just put a chicken cutlet.
She was like, that's just the chicken broth
Yeah.
that we marinated. And I'm like, that's amazing.
You know,
but it was wonderful.
I hadn't been there in like 5 years, and I literally was like, I think I remember you. I was like, how long have you been here? And she was like, 10 years. And I was like, it was the last time. So when we left, I was like, I'll see you in 5 years.
I'll see you in 5 years, Sarah.
She was like, and then she's like, well, did you move away? And I was like, no, I just don't need a garage.
The best part is like when you said that, she was like, that's fair. She wasn't even like, how dare you? She was like, that's fair. I like the fact that like she took like a subtle shot at like another crowd was on the other side of town. She was like, maybe.
I'm surprised that one's open.
I was like, whoa. We getting spicy with our entree.
I hope she's listening to this and you reach out to us. And your pours were incredible. She was like,
Great
would you
pour.
like a
She was
little
a great
more
waitress.
wine? And she was like, I was like, all right.
I mean, every client that she like, people were like, hey, Sarah, and like everyone's like ordering food. I'm like,
The sample
these
was a
people
glass.
Love her.
Like, she was like, you want to try it? And I was like, sure. And she poured me like a glass. And I was like, she was like, do you want it? I was like, I'm trying to finish the sample.
Like, they're,
still.
trying to
Get a
get,
sample.
they're trying to get you drunk so the food just tastes better and better as you
was
go
so funny.
along.
It wasn't bad, you know.
I got the sangria. It wasn't great.
I would go with you again if you want to
I got
go.
the old fashioned. It also wasn't great. I have I'm an old fashioned connoisseur, and like I knew it was bad when like she took the miniature cherry and she like muddled it in the glass,
I'm gonna have to stop you there.
and then she like cut the orange and shoved that in the glass as well.
This is where Galen's mentality was last night. She starts making a margarita,
I was like, what is she making
and
me?
so she's already salted
I
the
didn't see
rim.
the salted rim glass.
She salted the rim. She pours tequila in up to here, and he's like, "Man, that's a lot of simple syrup for an old fashioned."
I was
and I was
like-
like, "I don't
Well,
think
here's
that's
the
your
thing.
old fashioned."
She was like, what would you like to drink? And I was like, an old fashioned. She's like, okay, great. And she turned and started making a drink. So my brain like, you just asked me. I told you you're going to make it. But she's like thinking down the road. So she's making someone else a drink. I'm like, that's a lot of simple syrup for an old
I was
fashioned.
like, did you think she was going to salt your rim as well?
Yeah, I didn't see that part. I was like, what is she doing? I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I don't want it. No, don't want that. But then she did bring out the old fashioned, and I was like, there's a chunk of orange in there. I'm like, I'm usually thinking like a peel or the zest. So
Well, let
that
me
was
know
our
when
night,
you,
guys.
Let me know when you want to go back. All right. Are we going to deep dive now? We always talk for so long before we actually get into meat.
That was like 2 minutes.
I'm sure the people want to hear. Well, what else do you want to talk about?
No, that's it. We're good. I don't want to talk to you guys
Well,
about
then
anything
stop
else.
complaining.
Don't make me come across this table.
I never want you to come across the table with me.
So much rage and power.
That was-
March Madness is today.
Ooh,
We'll talk about that next time.
they're mad about something.
Yesterday, Jared's like, March Furiousness is tomorrow, right?
I was like, what are people mad about
Angry?
this month?
Angry March is tomorrow, right? Like, even like, people are like,
That's how much I'm into sports.
Oh
Like, what's
my
everybody
gosh.
mad about this month? What's going on? I have no idea.
Just stop talking.
oh man, that's so funny.
Let's go. Deep dive, Mike. Alrighty. So, Galen, what's our deep dive?
Today, we are going to talk about something more important than CPR, than healthcare,
Okay.
than seatbelts and vehicles.
Right.
We're going to talk about how internet leads saved my life. Dun, dun, dun.
I like it.
It was really dramatic. I like that build up.
Yeah. So,
It's important for us to talk about internet leads in 2022 because if you're starting out, you probably need to use them. And if you are managing a team, you're probably trying to think of like, how can I keep leads in front of my people, give them something to call so they can convert these things and make $100,000 a year.
yeah, inventory is at an all-time low right this second. If I hear one more person tell me, "Oh, it's such a good time to be a realtor, isn't it? Market's crazy," I'm like, I'm gonna kill you.
Everyone's starving today.
Because in reality, most agents are out there just struggling trying to get houses under contract. Now, thankfully for us, we've sold 50 houses this year so far. But we can even see it on our team with people that have active clients that are looking every single weekend and writing, and they're just not winning. There's 25 realtors to every one house for sale right this second in our market, which is absolutely insane.
Bananas.
That's insane. So we think that internet leads are crucial right now for agents because the more people you can get in contact with, the more people you can start building relationships with, especially if you're a new agent, you don't have a good sphere yet, if you're not getting referral business. It is crucial, and it's something that we've been implementing into our business heavier than ever. In years past, I think we were able to kind of float by with a pretty small lead budget, and we just had good referrals and good systems and good customer service. We are cranking out internet leads right this second. So
Yeah, and before we talk about what you have at your disposal, we'll probably just address what you don't have, right? And so,
Okay.
if you're a new agent, maybe you're not on a team, you heard all of the talk and everyone's like, it's a great time to be a realtor, and that's all you heard, so you went and got your license, and now you're like, all right, any second now people are going to come to me. Well, there are some people that do have they're just looking at their phone like, someone's going to call me any second. They saw that one post I put on Facebook. There are some people that have a huge sphere. They've got a network, family relationships, fraternity, sorority. They've got a lot of people that are in their network that could give them, and for them, maybe they don't need internet leads, but I would venture a guess that the majority of you, us, all of us, we don't have that situation.
Well,
We are probably going to have to develop that. We've got a sphere, but it might not be big enough to support it. Or even if you got a big sphere, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to use you.
well, and even if you're selling, are you selling as much as you want to sell? Right?
You got big dreams.
That's it. If you're building a team, you got to figure, all right, for every new agent that comes in, how are we going to help build their business? And internet leads are a crucial part of this. So what we want to break down is not necessarily as much where to buy the leads, but we can talk a little bit about what we do. But
Sure.
I think there's a million different lead sources out there that you can choose from, so you can find what's right for you.
Better yet, if you want to know where we get them, just put it in the comments and we'll talk to you.
Reach out to
Like
us.
and subscribe.
So I think the first thing, rather than talking about necessarily a specific source, because there are so many, I would just say the first thing is actually getting leads, right? Where are you going to get them? And I think one thing that's crucial to look at is what is the actual conversion rate of
Okay.
whatever leads you're looking at, right?
You're my conversion monster. Give me the stats.
So the way that, I mean, we have a lot of Google pay-per-click leads, PPC, social media leads, things like that. And a lot of times the conversion rate will be lower than something that's maybe a higher end lead, something that, let's call Zillow a higher end lead,
Okay.
where they charge you $400 most of the time for one lead. You would hope that converts faster than an internet lead that costs you $6, right?
Yeah.
Zillow Flex is a thing now, right? So they're paying referral fees of 35%. But on average, what I've noticed is even people like Realtor.com, which people would consider maybe a tier A lead, right?
Okay.
If you talk to Realtor.com, they're going to tell you their average conversion rate's about 5%. So that means you need 100 leads to get 5 deals, or 20 leads to get 1 deal. So if you're going to be buying leads, you want to look at that conversion rate, because if you're not even getting enough deals to be able to convert 1 a month, well, you may either need a bigger budget or you may need some cheaper leads or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
good to look at, right? I think just up front, whether you're a team, whether you're a solo agent, whatever you're doing, you're looking at, can I get the amount of leads I need? And what we've noticed is even on our cheap leads, I think our conversion is probably about 3 to 5%. I think it matches something like Realtor.com that's a premium lead. I want to say Realtor.com told me that their best agents in their best markets can convert at about 9% or 10%.
Okay.
In Zillow, I think they normally say 10 or 11%, something like that. But in reality, just before you start building a budget, you should probably do that, right?
Figure out what am I going to get for all of these dollars that I'm spending.
Yeah, we just bought another zip code. Oh, and then the other thing that we've been analyzing, some things are just kind of a blanket statement for leads, right? Like our PPC is all of Richmond. We're trying to get Richmond home buyers, Chesterfield home buyers, whatever. But then with something like Zillow or Realtor or whatever, you're looking more zip code based, right, that you're buying. So the other thing is we asked them yesterday when we talked to Realtor.com, what's the average sales price going on in the neighborhood, right? Because again, if you're trying to factor in your cost per lead and your return on investment on those leads, if you're only getting leads in an area where the average home price is $100,000, but then the other agents in your market are getting home prices that are $800,000, right? They've got to convert way less than you do to have to cover your costs. So those are some things to look into as far as what you're buying. But I think once you start figuring that out, I think what we want to dive into in this podcast mainly is how do we actually convert? How do we make sure that we're turning leads into money and we're not just paying for a big old database that none of your agents are actually going to call or follow up with or close?
Man, that gave me a cold sweat when you just said that. It was like none of your agents are going to call. I'm like, it's a trigger warning for any of you team leads like Jared and myself.
But I think this
It
is
does
the
happen.
biggest issue with internet leads, and that's why we're doing this podcast, and that's why this is the biggest portion of this podcast is breaking down, all right, you're going to buy some leads, great, get your leads, figure it out, but now what are you going to do to convert them? Because I would say most people that get leads do not call them like they should. Even solo agents. I know plenty of solo agents that'll spend a few $1,000s a month on leads, and I'll talk to them and they're like, yeah, I'm just not calling them like I should. And you're like, then why? Why are you spending thousands of dollars a month?
We've got someone who listens to our podcast. She just joined. She was already with our brokerage, but she just joined her team. And her and I have had like the same conversation over the past couple of days where she's like, I've got these leads from my former I'm like, all right, so what'd you do? And she's like, I didn't call any of them. And I'm like, okay.
She's like, I collect them like Pokemon cards.
Essentially, that's what she's done. She's like, I got all these. And she's like, I did like these open houses. And I'm like, well, did you follow up with those people? And she's like, no, I didn't call any of them. And I'm like, what's happening right now? Why aren't you doing so? You've got to do that. Mike, I'm going to, let's see, what's the date of this? I put a Instagram post on December 6, 2021.
Screenshot it.
And I'm gonna just have you go to my Facebook page. I'm not screenshotting anything. Come on, I'll screenshot. I won't screenshot. It says, "What if the leads aren't bad?" And then the next tile says, "You're just bad at converting them." Because oftentimes we hear people say, "The leads are terrible.
Oh my God,
leads are bad. Jared, these leads are no good. They're internet leads." And
Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Alec Baldwin. Watch the speech.
They're like, these leads are no good, and I think it's not the leads, it's you. And so we're going to talk about converting. So what's the first thing that you should be doing when you get an internet lead is...
A lot of steak knives.
Call them.
Sorry.
Call them?
Yes.
Call them. And that's going to be like the number one thing. There's so many times when people will call them. They're like, Galen, I called them. I'm like, man, that's great. All right, what'd you do later that afternoon? I played video games. I went to the bar. I'm like, all right, did you call him again? No. I'm like, okay, sure. What'd you call the next day? Did you call him? No, I didn't call him. All right, what about that?
I was waiting for them to call me back.
Yeah, I thought they'd call me back. I'm like, all right, cool. The third day, fourth day, I'm like, so you called them once and they didn't call you back and you just moved on with your life. No, what we have seen, shout out to Brandon Gary, who's been crushing him, is that 6 times. 6 is the magic number when it comes to just that initial call. But more than just that, it's the time that you allow to pass from when that internet lead comes in, which is the thing that keeps me up late at night.
Yeah, so speed to lead is crucial.
Get that speed up.
Because if you don't call a lead within the first hour, by hour like 2 to 4, you're almost 800% less likely to get a hold of them and convert them. So think about that. People get leads a lot of times, and you'll hear people say, well, I don't want to call them the second it comes in. That's just weird. They're already on the website. Now I'm just bugging them. They think I'm just stalking them, right? Or you get maybe your busy agent that's like, I was on appointments. I was doing this.
Sure.
I'll call them this evening. If you wait more than a few hours, you are 8 times less likely to close them. So we've set up a system that from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., as soon as a lead comes in, it hits an agent's phone, and they get a phone call that says this lead is coming in. You need to dial them right this second, right? But here's the other issue. That's just a few hours. If you were to call them back the next day, now you're like 2,000% less likely to convert this person.
Now you're a stranger.
20 times, which means if they register for something like a Realtor.com lead, which a lot of these services, Realtor.com, HomeLight, whatever, they send them out to multiple agents at the same time, which means they ring us and we call them immediately because we know how this works. Mm-hmm. You call them the next day. Why are you 20 times less likely to convert? Well, because I've already sold them a house by the time that you've reached out and called them.
We're in escrow.
Yeah. So speed to lead is crucial.
And I told Jared this one. It was like one of the things that I don't know if I could avoid was that. So we had a lead that came in at 11 p.m. one night before, and I saw it and I'm like, all right, all my bells went off. I'm like, I'm gonna call this guy 9 a.m. sharp. I'm about to call them and I'm gonna crush this lead. And I call them, they answered. So much energy. We're talking. They were like, oh yeah, the other agent said. And I was like, excuse me, what? She was like, yeah, the other agent called me. And we were going to set up a showing for tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, just curious, what time did they call you? And she was like, oh, I think it was like 8:01 this morning. And I thought, I just got beat out for speed to lead. And that made me think, hey, sorry, if you register the night before,
8 a.m.
I'm your wake up call.
Yeah.
I'm calling you at 8 in 30 seconds in the morning to get that done, because I don't like being beaten out. And like, look how that went. Like they called. She wasn't angry. She wasn't furious. She was like, "How dare you call me?" She was like, "Oh yeah, we scheduled a showing. We're going to see the house tomorrow." I'm like, I wanted to do that.
And from a business hour standpoint, really, you were only 2 hours behind. 11 o'clock to 8 to 9, right? There was only like an hour or two of even awake time.
I called her at 9 a.m.
I know, but I'm saying from awake time, right? You literally were like, got a lead. I'm awake for maybe an hour. I wake up. I'm awake for maybe like an hour. Make a call. 2 hours, right? You just dropped.
A lot of people will do that. I am just not one of them.
So speed to lead, we set up our systems so that if the agent does not call within 48 hours, it automatically pulls it out of the system and puts it in a pond for other agents to go attack it. I think we are very generous for 48 hours based on everything that we've talked about with speed to lead, because within 48 hours, if you haven't called, probably we're never converting this person. You just screwed up big time. But I shouldn't say that. It's not that we aren't. It's just frustrating. But 48 hours gives you the benefit that if it came in at 11 and you had appointments the next day and you figure you're going to call that evening, right? If you do 10 hours or 24, we could see how you could sleep and lose some in the pond or maybe have some morning appointments. So we do 48. I think we should do 24.
I was just about to say, I was like, and if you recall, our generosity actually ran out.
Oh, did you move it to 24?
And we were going to move it to 24 for the meeting, and then I had a tragedy, and I didn't go to the team meeting, and all of that got like hijacked, and I never actually changed it because I need to announce it to the team first.
Integrator.
So it's actually on me. But if you're listening to this podcast before we have a team meeting, just know that it's going from 48 hours to 24 hours. If it was up to me, it would go 12 hours.
Or our next meeting is in like 2 hours, so I'm pretty sure they're not going to hear this before then. So yeah, we're 24 hours now.
Next Tuesday, it'll go 24 hours because I think 48 is just...
It's too long.
It's way too long. You gave every other agent in the world an opportunity.
They've seen 9 other home sites at this point. You're like, I'm calling you off of this house site. And they're like, I've been on 180 home sites.
And that's what we often hear. People are like, I called a guy this morning. He had just registered. He was like, which house was that? He was like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I just lost my thought and I was going to launch. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. I'm sure it was important.
It was so important.
So all right. So speed to lead, crucial. Galen had mentioned another thing, though, the consistency of calling. He said 6 times is the number. So that's the next thing you have to factor in when you're trying to convert internet leads. I can almost guarantee anyone that's listening to this podcast, let's just say 95% of them fail at this. at least 95%. And I know this because, one, I fail at it still. I got
a great idea.
Okay.
I think you should do a fake looking as yourself to see what you get back as a test.
I'll like register ourselves and see when the agent calls or something.
And
I got
see the time and some of that.
See who calls back, what time.
Well,
what time and all that.
We have 23 agents. So it'd be like 23 fake accounts, and we'd probably get.
Well, it'd be a sample test because it would go for the one.
Yeah,
I don't mind that.
We get instant calls from 3 of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe 4. But here's the thing. 6 times is the number. So I know this is a thing because I've run a team for years now. I was a solo agent for years before that. I looked at the systems. I talked to brokers when they gave us CRM systems and things like that. Statistically, most people, if they call at all, they call 1 time, maybe twice, and then they just figure this person's not interested.
They're not interested.
Number's not right. They must not have been looking, whatever. But here's the biggest thing to learn. People don't need you until they need you. So you have to realize that 6 times is building a relationship with them even if they haven't talked to you yet. So if you're sending them houses because they've registered maybe one of your websites and they're seeing your face in that email and you've sent some text messages and you've made some calls and you've left some voicemails, historically, by the time you get to the 6th call, you're not the one telemarketer that calls on something, right? Like how many calls a day do you get for someone saying, I want to sell you health insurance. I want to sell you a car warranty. I want to sell you this. And you get one call and you're like, please go die in a fire. And then that person never calls you again. But guess what? 2 hours later, another person calls you, and he's ready to roll, right? But guess why they do that? Because at some point,
it's working.
Somebody's like, you know what? I do need a car warranty right now.
I don't have health care.
Can you give it to me right now?
My social security number is expired.
You know, I do with Sweetwater, and they do music stuff, guitars and all that. And their sales team and like their follow-up team is amazing. Like they call me, the guy called me about a pedal I bought, asked me how I like, did I try that yet? Have you tried this with this pedal? Have you like thought about, like, he went into a huge deep thing. Like it's like they'll text me, hey,
2 hours later, Mike's bought everything.
I mean, that's the thing is their sales, like, it's just amazing on how they do things, but it's not coming off aggressive. It's coming off like, hey, I'm your friend, I'm your buddy.
So you probably are bringing up a separate point that we should bring out in the podcast at some point, which is just how you're approaching your calls and scripts and all of these things.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing with that speed delete on the 6 times is about the 6 call. Historically, what happens is when the person does answer or actually calls you back, they say, hey, man, I am not trying to ignore you. I appreciate all of your follow-up. I just have been slammed with the kids, slammed with work, slammed with this, still waiting on a lease, still trying to get my credit up, still trying to get pre-approved. There's a reason, but then what you realize is when they need you, they're ready. Just like all of these other calls that come in. At some point, like shout out to Max at LoopNat. That's our commercial brokerage side of things. That guy calls me no less than 2 times a week to try to get me to market our commercial listings. And I blow that guy off so many times. And Max, I like you. It's nothing against you. It's just that I have appointments all day. So when you call me, I'm like, I don't have time for this. In reality, at some point, I have to be like, Max, I really need to spend, $3,000 a month with you on this listing. And he's going to get it, right? Just because he's in it.
You're not giving it to anyone other than Max.
I'm just not ready. And that's almost every single internet lead, right? Every internet lead. And this is the next thing, right? Deciding, is your lead an A lead? Are they buying right now? Within the next month? Are they a B lead within 30 to 90 to 6 months, right? Or are they a C lead? Are they 6 months plus, right? So it's integrating how often you're calling A, B, and C's, but also realizing within that 6 calls, you're going to get them for the first time. And most likely, no matter where they are in the process, where are they going to claim to be?
Not ready.
They're going to claim to be a C, right?
Yeah.
They're going to claim to say, I'm just starting to look.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of looking down.
Just kind of seeing my options.
And we've learned this because of this phenomenon that I feel like always happens, where they're just like, oh, it's going to be next year. It's going to be 6 months. And then you're like, okay. Then you call them in 6 months and they're like, oh, yeah, I just bought 2 months ago.
Yep.
And you're like, why didn't? And like, it's because they don't know where they're at a lot of times. And so that's why you have to keep following up. I found my thought.
Okay.
It's a kind of like a cheat code that I've often used to overcome, and I've told this to other people, and overcoming that whole fear of like, I don't want to call them. They're on the website right now. It's too soon. Is it weird? There's a script out there, and you guys can probably find it out there, but I will call them almost immediately like, hey, Jared, this is Galen Parker with the Davis Group team. I operate Central VA Realty. Just one quick thing. I know that you're on the website. Some of the pictures hadn't been loading. Have they been loading for you? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, everything looks good. I'm like, oh, great. Where are you looking? And they'll say, oh, I'm looking for Richmond, Virginia. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Okay. I just want to make sure that I've got it set up correctly. While I've got you on the phone, tell me a little bit about your home purchasing journey. That has people have never been like, get out of there. They're like, oh, yeah. Because people love when you ask for their feedback. They're like, oh, well, I'm a computer programmer.
Set up a
These
good lie,
pictures are
Galen
working. And I'm like, because I don't know, maybe the pictures aren't working, but they always are working because our website's dope. But that is one, that's a little cheat sheet that I use to
I'm
go
going to
in
make
there.
up stuff from now on, too.
Feel free to
I'm going to start calling people. I'm going to say, hey, we were giving away a free house this week, but I just want to make sure that your email's working because we're going to notify via that. So you are getting my emails. You are getting my homes. Or I'll let you know if you're the winner. By the way, where are you looking?
What are you looking for?
We're trying to decide where we want to give the house away at.
There you go. All right, so that works. That's
Sorry, you didn't win, but we'll sell you
that's
one.
free information if you guys want more tips.
Be sure to register next time.
That's right.
Put in the comment section below. So the next thing we talked about speed to lead. We talked a little bit about
How much you call them.
How much you
6
call
times.
them. The CRM, I think that's the next logical thing because oftentimes we hear agents say, got all these leads, here's my sheets of paper, here's my manifesto. And I'm like, how are you tracking all of these things? You need to have that.
Or they do like Zillow and some Realtor and some whatever, some Home Light
Everywhere.
or whatever. And so every single one of these websites has a portal, right? So they have their actual leads, but every day now, right, they've got to log into Zillow and they got to log into Home Light. Or they've written them down on paper and they're like, here's my paper list. And I actually am getting back to some paper because I need to just track my A's that are happening all the time so I don't lose track. But you're right.
Which you don't need to.
You have to have a CRM. Yeah.
You could just use the CRM and then like classify them.
He's right.
correctly.
But you should absolutely have some kind of client management system, CRM.
Yeah.
So there's Sierra, Boomtown, Follow Up Boss. What other ones are there? Those are the big ones. KV Core. If you were at the EXP, they give you KV Core for free if you want to use it. We still use Sierra because we like the integration better. But the CRM is going to help you not only keep track of your database, you can keep track where all the leads are coming, and more importantly, it lets you set up follow-up tasks. So what I've noticed is as you start this business, maybe you've got 10, 20 leads. It's very easy to track those 10 or 20 leads and figure out what's going on. But right now we've got, how many do we have, Galen? Like 8,000 leads in our database?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something like that. So at 8,000 leads, right, you can't pick one name out of there that I know. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. But I can log in at any time as the team lead and look at a name and look at the follow-ups, look at how many calls have been made, look at what emails have gone out, look at what text messages have gone out, and I can get a pretty good picture for what's going on with said lead. And so as your database keeps growing, if you're a solo agent or on a team and you're managing hundreds of leads, you've got to have a good CRM system so that all these people that claim they're 3 months out or 4 months out or 6 months out, you've got constant notifications hitting you each day that say, hey, you talked to Sally 4 months ago. I know you don't remember her because you've talked to 180 other people or 1,800 other people since then, but you need to call Sally. You need to ask her what's going on. CRM stuff, Galen?
Sorry, I'm just getting angrier and angrier. So I like.
Are you looking at our leads?
As you were talking, I logged into our CRM and I did all agents,
No
leads that are
contact.
still in the new section, so they technically have not been. And I'm like the oldest one that it's not contacted. Thankfully, there's only like a couple of them, but it's like 4 days.
What?
Where it
We
is,
have call day today, so we'll jack those. That
I'm
means
gonna
the pond's got to have stuff in it.
the pond's about to get
The
some new
pond
entries.
is full of fish.
Is that because of the weekend too? And
It doesn't matter. If you're in real estate, there's no weekend.
That is the
I'm
worst
saying
excuse.
like people, the realtors, was the weekend for them, so they didn't bother
Possibly.
to look at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't care.
I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
I don't care.
But so like this is just like a big reason why we've got some agents who I'm like, why did we even give them leads? But so
this is the other thing to think about with what he's saying, right? Is your agents and you will never be as good as software is sometimes. So for our CRM, the reason we use it is because we have things like artificial intelligence built in that as soon as someone registers, the artificial intelligence will start messaging them and it will reply back and have a full conversation. So they say, hey, we see you registered at the website. Our pictures aren't loading. Are they
Yeah.
working? Yes, great.
is there something wrong?
Where are you looking? Are you pre-approved? At any point in time, if our agent is smart and they see that the artificial intelligence is talking to this client and they've engaged, we can actually pick up that conversation as the artificial intelligence from our computer and have a full conversation and say, hey, we're going to help you out. I'm going to have Jared reach out to you. What's a good time? Expect a call from this number. Then I can just stop that conversation, pause it, and I can give them a call at that time, right? So we use things like that. That's artificial intelligence, runs all the time. We'll even find you can wake up and someone's been having a text conversation with the assistant at like 2 a.m, right? I mean, crazy, but you're like, they're working even when your agents aren't. So it's worth looking into that kind of stuff. And then action plans. So that's the other reason we use
love
Sierra.
the action plans,
is
yeah.
the action plans that lets you say, hey, I've made 6 calls. I have done the work. I have emailed. I have texted. These people are not replying, but I can see their emails right. I know their voicemails right. They're checking my emails. They must just not be ready yet. I'm going to put them on an action plan. I can archive this lead. But now instead of just junking this lead forever and never hearing back, now you have a lead in your system where periodically every 2 weeks or every month, they're going to get a text message. They're going to get an email that says, hey, are you ready yet? Are you still looking? Can I help? Are you getting our stuff? And what happens is with thousands and thousands of leads in a database and hundreds of action plans going, is periodically each month you're going to have people that finally are ready, right? And they respond to that action plan. They say, hey, you've been awesome.
I've noticed several hundred text messages, emails from you.
We're actually ready, and you followed up better than anybody else. And in reality, you're like, my system has been following up better than anybody else. we've got, 3,000 text messages going out a month, right? But that's great because then it pauses the action plan. It gives you a notification that says this person engaged. Here's their reply. Please do your job. And then you can reach out
to work
and you can close it. So that's why the CRMs are so crucial, to make sure that we're using them and putting them into place.
Yeah, I don't understand how anyone can kind of like do something like without a CRM. I'm like, how are you? Like my brain would just explode. I'm not as smart as you are. I need technology.
100%. Anything else? We're nearing 40 minutes. So
there you go.
Should probably start wrapping it up. So just keep in mind, quick recap, you want to think, where am I getting leads? What are the price points, the conversion rates, and things like that? And how much do I need to get to actually make the return on investment that we want to make, right? So I like to think for every dollar I spend in leads, I want to make $4 or $5. That's just me personally, because I have to obviously pay the team. I've got splits. We've got the overhead, all that good stuff. So you're going to figure out all that. You want to put a good CRM into place so that you know that the leads that are coming in aren't getting lost, that they're not falling through the cracks, that you're actually going to call them. You want to clarify, are they A leads, B leads, C leads? Because you want to make sure you're calling your A's every week, your B's and C's every other week. You want to make sure that you put proper notes, good action plans, good software. Speed to lead is key, and make sure you're following up.
If there's anything you remember, please remember speed to lead.
And 6 contacts on every single lead, and you will guarantee yourself success. And that's it. So, if you have any questions, if you want to know what systems we're using, what softwares, what artificial intelligence, you need help building your team, you need help building your solo agent empire, we would love to help partner with you. We're partnering with agents all over the country, even the world right this second. We just signed up our first agent down in Brazil, so we would love to help you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. Don't forget to look at our other channel, Living in Richmond, Virginia, for some more area-centric videos. You can contact me here through our contact information in YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, you can't. So you can look us up __ the Davis Group on Instagram, or you can email me at jared@centralvarealty.com. Galen?
You can find me on Instagram at your realtor's favorite realtor, RVA. You can email me at galen@centralvarealty.com, or you can call me 804-274-9016.
I love that he's still giving out the phone number. I've stopped throwing it everywhere because people are using it. But you can call me. If you reach out to me, I will give you my personal cell, and we can chat that way too. Anyways, this has been another episode of Mega Agent Real Estate Talk. We appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time.
If you have a real estate question that you would like to ask Jared or Galen, reach out to them at jared@centralvarealty.com or galen@centralvarealty.com. Who knows, it may even be featured on an upcoming episode.